morning. Good morning. Welcome to our morning tape. My name is Frank Johnson.
I'm Abraham Lawrence.
I'm Nick Seaman.
And I'm Tim Goetz.
Our goal here is to describe for you the movie that is going on in our head when we read the Bible. Today is Thursday. It is November the 2nd, 2023. Episode number?
209.
Yeah, I believe we vote next week, don't we? I think Election Day is next week. It is the off year. It's an off year, but I do believe there are still elections of the first Tuesday, which next week will be the first Tuesday in November. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, I believe.
I think there's a guy named Frank's running for mayor of Gastonia.
Yeah, some more local stuff.
Yeah,
and,
so there's some, we're having local elections. So if you're somewhere else in the country and you're like, what is he talking about, Election Day? Yeah, we are having an Election Day in Gaston County anyway.
Yeah, we're seeing the
This
posters
year,
everywhere.
this year will be all right, but next year's going to be a mess.
Yeah, well, be a presidential election year.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen from now till that time, too.
I'm glad we're not a political podcast.
I'm glad too.
Me too. All right. So anyway, we're in Genesis chapter 43. We're talking about Joseph throwing a meal for the brothers now that Benjamin's there. I mean, I think he's excited now. Benjamin's here.
Well, I think first of all, they're all relieved because they know they're not in trouble.
And Simeon's back with them.
Simeon's back with them.
So they know they're getting Simeon back.
You know, because they get down there and they get invited to Joseph's house and they automatically think the worst.
Yeah.
So then the steward of the house is like, just chill, guys. Everything's good.
We're just having dinner.
Yeah.
We're just going to have a dinner. And then verse 26, Genesis 43:26 says, when Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present, which was in their hand, and they bowed to the ground before him. So once again, there they are, those sheaves bowing down to his sheaf. And then he asked them about their welfare, and he said, is your old father well, of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? And they said, your servant, our father, is well. He is still alive. And they bowed down in homage. And as he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son. Man, he said, is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me? I mean, I'm sure Joseph is sure, but it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
And Benjamin was probably a very young boy when Joseph left.
Yeah.
He was probably really young.
Yeah, he's gone
And it's
through
like
some
now
changes.
he's a
Yeah.
young man. He's, in his mid-20s. And Joseph's just making sure. I mean, he knows that this guy wasn't here the first time, so I'm assuming this is the younger.
I'm thinking
no, we brought our
probably
cousin
thinks it
Mel.
is, but,
We brought our cousin Mel because Daddy said you ain't bringing Benjamin down there. I wonder why Jacob didn't think of that. Well, just, I mean, just say it's Benjamin, right?
I mean, there aren't as many tricks as they played before, so.
Yeah, he is the trickster.
Do you think that Joseph might have known, though?
That is so good.
He's got a fake mustache?
You never thought of that? Yeah, listen, the first
And
time.
what is your name, young man? Benjamin.
George Benjamin.
Some people call me George, but they call me Benjamin too.
Benoni.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Wow.
And they
I
never even thought of that.
Oh yeah.
I know, but honestly, I remember the very first time reading this, even as a kid. I think one of the first times I read this story, I probably wasn't but about 11 or 12. I was a youth evangelist at that time, and I actually preached something in this thing, and it was about what you have meant for bad, God has done something for good. And I was just reading this passage, and I was saying to my dad, we were talking about this, and I was like, I don't get it, Dad. Why didn't they just send another kid down there and just call him Benjamin? I mean, that way it's the best of both worlds. You know, you take another kid, but you don't take Benjamin in case something happens, right?
Yeah.
You get to keep Benjamin. But, of course,
He
they
surely
didn't.
could have got away with that because, I mean, as many people.
Joseph
as much
shouldn't
as
have
people
known who it was.
changed
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that many years.
There's probably tons of relatives in that, and a lot of them like, yeah, you look a lot like him, so you go.
Yeah. But Joseph, I really do think Joseph would have. The bad news was Joseph would have known, and then they would have been in really bad
exactly.
trouble.
Like if they would have tried to pull a fast when everybody's going to jail.
And then Reuben would have went, I told you this was not going to work. Anyway, and he said,
Don't con me.
is this your brother that you spoke of me? And he said, may God be gracious to you, my son. Joseph hurried out, for he was deeply
Couldn't
stirred
take it. Couldn't
over
take
his
it.
brother. He couldn't. And he sought a place to weep, and he entered his chamber, and he wept there. So that was his
I wonder if
brother.
they're like, what was that all about?
Yeah. Yeah, you know they did. And then he washed his face and he came out, and you didn't want anybody to see that he was crying. And he controlled himself and said, "Serve the meal."
He's probably like, okay, let's eat.
Oh, my goodness.
They were chopping onions when I was checking on them. So,
So they served him by himself. And this, so Joseph ate by himself. Because I said they already had this tradition where they would not eat with Hebrews. Even though Joseph was the number one man in the whole land. So he has all this power, and yet he still has to eat by himself. They will not let him eat. And he can't eat with his brothers because they'll probably... They know something's up then if he starts eating with them.
I recognize that smacking noise.
You don't have a sheaf in there, do you? Anyway, so they served him by
Yeah,
himself.
but the Egyptians know that Jacob is a Hebrew. I mean, that
Joseph
is a Hebrew.
And that
They
these
know.
are Hebrews.
Yeah.
But they still, I don't think they've put it together, though, that it's his brothers. Because many Canaanites, it said many Canaanites have come down there. So probably many other Hebrews, Canaanites, whatever, they all look the same. You know, so they served him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves.
Oh, man.
Because the Egyptians could not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is loathsome to the Egyptians.
Wow.
So
there's 3 separate tables.
so you can take care of your grain, and you can take care of the land. You can be in charge, but we're not eating with you. Yeah. I mean, does that not sound like true racism right there, Abe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
I mean, literally, hey, Abe, I think you're a great guy and everything, and we can hang out and we can have some beers or whatever, but you have to sit at that end of the bar. Or we'll go to the restaurant, but you'll have to come in the backside and get your food because you're not allowed to sit in here. It's the most hypocrisy I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What was that movie? It's called The Green Book?
The Green Book.
The Green Book. I watched that. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've never
Nick.
seen that.
I'm telling you, it's amazing and outstanding because this guy, he's a black man from, I think, New Jersey, and he is a concert pianist, and he is phenomenal. He had to have, I think it was a Steinway.
Yeah.
They had to bring like a certain piano in for him to play on because that's the only thing that would give justice to what he was playing. And people would. And they invited him to come and play and everything. And yet, in the restaurant where they were all banqueting, he could not eat in the restaurant. This guy that's literally going to be the star of the show could not eat in the restaurant. He could play the piano for him. He could do the thing, at the club, wherever they were going.
This was years ago.
No, when was this movie out? Last year?
No, but
No,
I
he
mean,
means
but,
like the
but,
setting.
it's the setting. It's like
setting,
the-
yeah.
It literally took place in the 60s.
Yeah.
Okay.
1960s.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's we were still that segregated, especially in the South.
Oh, yeah.
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 Whites had their place, coloreds had their place. That's the way they said it.
Ouch.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, and you
Ow.
know that, Abe. But that's what they had. They had signs that literally said
Oh,
that.
yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So I'm just stating a factor. I'm not stating the way I feel. You guys know better. And that's the same way with these stupid This goes all the way back to Egyptians and Hebrews. They literally could not eat with them. And like I say, here is a guy that's in control of your life. But I can't eat with you, though. Sorry.
Yeah.
And Joseph just accepts that, too. Why does Joseph accept that, Abe? Why does he say, dude, this is silly. We can all eat together. I mean, I'm on your side. I'm actually taking care of the Pharaoh's land.
I'm even really, to be honest with you, I'm surprised he didn't even make that exception. I'm really surprised that was one thing that he did not change, you know.
That was
'Cause
their
he
custom?
He could.
You would have thought he could.
Yeah.
Why don't you just end the racism right now? Because you know what? We're all just people. And God has spoken to me, and he's given me this guidance and this leadership. We're all just people. Man. But anyway, they couldn't eat with the Hebrews, for it's loathsome to the Egyptians. And now they were seated before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked to one another in astonishment. He took portions to them from his own table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of the others. So they feasted and they drank freely with him. So there you go. Had a good time.
And
Big
in,
party.
in my version, it says, and were merry with him. So they just had, one big meal, passing plates around the separate tables.
Benjamin, if you're not going to eat that, I'll take some of it.
Yeah, right. Nice coat.